Welcome to the Rotary Time Show, a public service program presented by Rotary District 7610. On our programs, we talk with Rotarians and community leaders and discuss how Rotary International builds partnerships to support local, national, and world communities. I am your host, Rotarian Dr. Deborah Jackson from the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia. The success of a Rotary Club is dependent on the club president. They lead, inspire, motivate, and connect their clubs with communities and others locally and around the world. Joining me remotely is Rotarian Scott Monett, who is the president of the Rotary eClub of District 7610, Virginia, for the 23-24 Rotary year. Welcome, President Scott, to the Rotary Time Show.
Thank you, Deborah. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure to have you, especially since you're coming from a very unique setting, and that's our eClub. And I believe you all were maybe the first one, so I'm glad to have you in the house today. It's very wonderful to hear. But let's start off by having the audience learn a little bit more about Scott Monett. Tell us about you, your career, a little bit about your background maybe, and where you're from, education, those things.
Okay. Yeah, I have a background in technology. I had a company for 16 years that I started when I was 19, a sophomore in college. And I sold that company, and then I got into kind of the nonprofit and philanthropy sector, having started a charity that helped injured veterans using engineering students to come up with innovations to help them live a better life. And I continue a lot of effort in the philanthropy space, working with a number of arts and literary organizations, among others. And it's something that I just enjoy. And so Rotary is a really good fit for serving various nonprofit needs and helping people. And so that's the main reason I'm involved in Rotary. I feel like I have a team behind me.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And I want to congratulate you and celebrate you because I remember when back when you and your dad, I believe, were working hard with those engineering students to develop prostheses for injured veterans. I don't know if you all are still doing that, but I do recall that and thinking how awesome that was that you were involved in that.
Yeah, I'm no longer associated with the organization. I did 5 years. But it is now at 21 universities, maybe 23 actually, around the country, including 2 military academies, a U.S. Navy Academy, as well as West Point. So the program has really taken off, and it's made a huge impact, not only in the lives of injured veterans, but in the lives of students and engineering students who end up going into helping professions using their engineering know-how and background. So it's been a real great success, and I was proud to be the founding executive director, and it was just an exciting time.
Absolutely. Well, good. As again, I say I celebrate you for that. Let's talk about the eClub. What is the eClub? What's its membership? I mean, tell us about how the eClub operates.
Okay, the eClub was started soon after Zoom and other technologies became available to the public. And there were a lot of people that had difficulty making meetings on a weekly basis, or traveled a lot with work, or had kids at home, or were retired, or whatever the reason, just had difficulty making the meeting every week. And so we started the eClub to serve those people that still wanted to give back and be involved in doing good works with Rotary, but who just couldn't make the meetings easily. And so what's interesting is our club actually has members in Florida, in California, and in Maine, along with Virginia, Maryland, and DC. So we have people in far-flung places, including other countries, although they've moved to a more local club. We had people from Burma as well. So it's kind of a remarkable thing. Everybody now is using Zoom, but we were using Zoom before the pandemic. And so it's been kind of a remarkable experience. And it's also allowed people that couldn't participate in Rotary to continue to participate in Rotary. So
That's
it's been really
wonderful.
fulfilling that way.
That's a real success story when I think about the pandemic and the transformations that happened as a result of that. A lot of good came out of that as well as bad. How large are you?
We're about 30 members, 30 members, half of whom are active participants. We do not have a attendance requirement like most Rotary clubs. So some people just participate in our projects, other people come to our meetings, other people fulfill service in some other way. We also have a lot of retired Rotarians or people that have been past district governors or other officers within Rotary that kind of wanted to slow down after they gave it their all. And so we have a good number of those types of members as well. So it's sometimes I like to call it the home for wayward Rotarians.
Well, but you still have a lot of your mission and objectives are still consistent and align very nicely with Rotary, but you offer a little more flexibility. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, and we do a lot. I mean, we do a lot as a online club.
How about your service? When you think about service, the functions you need to have in place to ensure that your meetings flow, what are some of those things that you do to ensure those things happen?
But we still do service projects. So I'll just give you an example of some of the projects we've done. We handed out sleeping bags, 0-degree sleeping bags to the homeless in Washington for many, many years until I heard a police officer complain that there were all these sleeping bags in DC and did not know where they had come from. So I stopped the program. But we gave out hundreds of sleeping bags. I just dropped them on random park benches and kind of dropped them around the city where they could easily be found. Or I worked with the homeless people directly to have them hand them out. So it was a really good project. In fact, I got quite a number of Christmas gifts from the homeless in DC, which was really a nice gesture and much appreciated. And our club completely rallied behind that, and it was a great success. So that's one example. We helped a school in Nepal fund textbooks and school supplies. In fact, some of the kids had never seen white paper before in their lives because they had to use magazine paper and whatnot because the school was so poor. We provided that school 5 years of school supplies as well as new English textbooks. Interestingly enough, it's a school that teaches in English up in the hills in Nepal. We also support the Guatemala Literacy Project, which teaches people children in rural areas how to read and write and fund schooling for them all the way through high school. And we also were involved in an Israeli-Palestinian effort where we taught Palestinian doctors at Israeli hospitals to help form goodwill and better friendships among Israel and Palestinian doctors.
Okay. You all used to do a licensing project to help young people who wanted an automotive license, I believe.
That's exactly right. Yes. Well, it's for them to get certified. This is with the help of the Masons as well as the Automobile Dealers Association, New Automobile Dealers Association, which funds the training of mechanics or people that want to be mechanics but may not have the money for the training. We underwrite their training. So it's just a great effort to help those people that are interested in taking care of cars. We all need them. We all use them.
And to be quite honest with you, for what they charge us to change some oil, it's not a bad thing to have that license.
No, not a bad thing. That's right. Exactly.
So I would agree with you there. How about your routines in terms of your meetings? Do you all have speakers? I know you meet online. Do you have speakers that come out and not come out, but come online, as guests to offer some type of information to the club or those surrounding the club?
We do, yeah. So I try very hard to get an interesting speaker as often as I can. Our last speaker was a missionary to Africa,
Hmm.
and he talked about his experiences in Africa, kind of coming from a seminary and then going and being dropped in the middle of the Congo,
Hmm.
where he flew with the chickens in the airplane to get there, and talked about how he was honored with some of the tribal people sharing a nice dish of grubs with him as a welcoming
Mm.
dish. So the poor guy really experienced a fascinating part of the world that we never would have known about. But he did so much good, and kept saying how joyful the people he worked with there were, and how much of an impact they had on him. And he's now become a chaplain up in Massachusetts, where he's going to be serving people of all religions
Mm.
that are in the hospital. And so, it was a great story, and really nice to hear from him. His name is Father Johnson. Beautiful
Mm.
guy. Yeah.
Wonderful. You
So our format is monthly, and
okay?
we tend to have a speaker, and then we try to get together in person twice a year for the changing of the presidents, our induction ceremony, and then also for a holiday party, so that we can see each other in person. So we do have some in person meetings, which are pretty good, and people look forward to.
And do you find that because you're an e-club and you're not meeting face to face, does that often create challenges for your club in terms of engagement? People actually being engaged with one another.
Absolutely. It does. I mean, as you know, there's a big difference between meeting with somebody online and breaking bread with them. I think that breaking bread, I'm Italian, so we know all about this. But breaking bread with people is essential, I think, to
Mhm.
building relationships. The interesting thing about our club, though, is our kind of club godmother, Tintin Rashid, is responsible for recruiting 95% of the club members.
Mhm.
So she recruited us at various capacities. I was there in the beginning with her. And so everybody kind of knows each other. So we're friends in person before they were friends online, which makes it a little more comfortable.
Mhm.
But these fellowship opportunities where we get together, and it's a potluck format, and it's pretty casual. And it's really just to get to know you. We ask people to bring friends or their spouses, or people that might be interested in Rotary. And these are the ways that you can break through some of that distance that you have with the online format.
Wow. Now, if someone's from Burma, they're not coming to that
That didn't
fellowship
work
event.
very well because of the time zone. He was like, I have
but
to get
it's
up at what time?
yeah, but it's nice to know that is available. During your presidency so far, I want to talk when we come back from break a little bit more about what Scott Monett has in mind for your tenure as president. So we're going to take a short break and be right back and talk more with the president of the Rotary eClub of District 7610. Please stay with us.
We are this close
We're this close.
We are this close
of Tea.
To making history.
This close to changing the world.
We're this close.
this close.
This close to making sure no child suffers a crippling disease.
Ever again.
This close.
We are this close to ending polio.
Ending polio.
All we need is you.
This close.
If we don't act now, we may lose this chance forever. Help Rotary make history at endpolionow.org.
Welcome back to the Rotary Times. We're here talking with Rotarian Scott Monett, the president of the Rotary eClub of 7610 Virginia for the 23-24 Rotary year. Scott, thank you for sharing a wealth of information about your club, because sometimes people wonder, oh, it's an e-club. Well, they're not. They're meeting online. How are they getting things done? And you all are getting it done. You're getting the job done. So thank you for helping others who may be interested in doing just what you're doing to know the direction that they can go or follow you. As president, is there anything you want to see differently during your tenure? And I know you all are doing a lot, but is there anything new you'd like to see done?
That's a good question. So we've been struggling with some of the issues you alluded to. How do we build a sense of community when we're online? And one of the things that Rotarians often forget is you can visit any Rotary meeting anywhere in the world, anytime they're meeting. There are no closed meetings in Rotary. So I had the opportunity to be in Europe, and I attended some meetings, and they were hybrid meetings. In other words, they had in person and also ran a concurrent Zoom session. This happened often with a lot of existing clubs during the pandemic, as many people know. But this is also a good way where you can kind of retain some of your longstanding Rotarians who put, years, if not decades, into the club, but just want to slow down a little bit, but still participate. It's really not that hard to do, since most clubs set up the Zoom anyway. And it's an excellent way to keep people informed, especially as they age. I mean, a lot of our Rotarians are over 70, and but they're able to continue to participate. They love Rotary. They just can't make it easily to the meeting. They might have mobility issues or whatever. So I would encourage all clubs to try to retain those members by making it easy for people to participate, even if they can't come in person.
You mentioned.
What was your question? What was your question?
That's all right. You mentioned that you have a number of older Rotarians. How about what's the demographic in terms of your younger Rotarians who may be interested in that virtual option?
Well, this is something I've been exploring for many years. And one of the reasons I attend these other meetings in other countries is to see how they are attracting the younger members. And this is a problem faced by every single membership organization out there. How do you engage younger members? And really, you got to listen to them. I mean, the magic in engaging younger members, we did this at the McLean Chamber of Commerce, was we formed a group of younger chamber members and said, you guys come up with the program. You decide what you're going to do. And empowering young people and young professionals to help develop programs for the greater club is a really excellent way to engage people, because then they set the agenda. But they also have to engage the rest of the club and have them, go along with what they're doing. In other words, they gotta sell what they're doing. So so that's what I would suggest. We have not done a very good job of engaging younger members. We've had them, they tend to not stick around. And I think mainly it's because of our format. Our format is fairly dry in the sense that we have a speaker speak, and it tends to be on topics that maybe they're not as interested in, or frankly, on a Thursday night, which happens to be singles night in the United States, is not really going to be competitive with some of their other options. So, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't continue to experiment. But frankly, I think younger members need to be leaders that lead other younger members to make it work. So that could be starting a satellite club. These are things we have not done, we've thought about, but I think other clubs should explore this as well, or even a district-wide younger oriented club that works with all our clubs or something.
Yeah. Well, it's a good suggestion, and that's why I asked the question, because those are avenues that I think many people are exploring, right now. We do have a number of young people who want to give back, who are so very community oriented, but may not have time during the day to attend a meeting. Well, even our research tells us that they're not really engaged in organized meetings and associations and those that they have to find a way to do this. So thank you, for sharing that. I want you to talk to us now about your international project, because you all have a wonderful global grant project that you've been engaged in now for at least maybe 1 or 2 years.
Yes. So we funded a global grant. And for those that don't know, a global grant is a grant that's provided to a club that's supported by multiple districts, typically, and multiple clubs. And in our case, I think we had 6 districts and 33 clubs or so. from 6 countries. So we had participants all over the world. And what this particular project did was it trained 50 Palestinian doctors along with 50 Israeli doctors in the same class to get a certification, a trauma certification that would better prepare them to serve people in the emergency room. So it was primarily directed at emergency room physicians and what you do in the first few minutes of a triage patient coming in. So everybody's on the same page and speaks the same language. And this was developed by the American College of Surgeons in the United States and is one of the reasons we're able to save lives in our hospitals within the first many minutes of somebody having a trauma. That's why you hear about it's so important to get somebody to the hospital in a certain amount of time. That's all rooted in this concept. It was unknown in the Palestinian West Bank and other parts, and they have a significant lack of doctors. Not only do their doctors leave because they go to other Islamic countries, typically they're lured away if they're a very good doctor to the Emirates or to other nations. So they're left with kind of a skeleton crew, so to speak, of doctors, and they do not have the specialties and subspecialties that Israel has. So the whole point here is to save lives, but also to build bridges between people of very different cultures. And we see a lot of bad news coming out of the Near East. And one of the purposes of this project was to introduce professionals to each other that often think the worst of each other and have them realize that actually they're a lot closer to me than I think. And so that was the intention. What's wonderful about this program is it has since been funded by the USAID, which is the aid organization in the United States State Department, which now took what we did with our little 100 doctors, and now they're funding 4 years and many hundreds of doctors in this same program. So this is kind of the thing that Rotary is really, really good at. It's planting the seed of something that often becomes a flower. But somebody's got to plant that seed. If nobody plants that seed, we're not going to get any flowers.
Yeah.
So that's something as Rotarians is really essential. We take the risks, we try out programs, some of them fail, some of them succeed. But the point is we plant those seeds. And so this has been a success. It's hard to watch what's going on over there. In fact, I don't most of the time because I like to think of the positive that can be done.
All righty. Thank you for sharing that. I remember when that program was taking off and how proud I was invited to a presentation about it. And I remember how proud everyone were about it.
Well, thank you. Your club, yes, the McLean Club and many clubs in our district were major supporters of this program.
Absolutely.
So to all the clubs that supported us, thank you.
Yeah.
On our behalf.
So of all the projects that you've kind of gone through since we've been online talking about them, what's been the one that you've been personally involved that you have found to be the most rewarding for yourself?
Personally, I thought that the sleeping bag project was probably the most rewarding because I had a misconception of the homeless that I think a lot of people have, which is that many of them did not. Well, let me put it this way: many of the homeless choose to be homeless. Many of the homeless choose to be homeless because they don't like having to pay a mortgage. They don't like car payments. There are a lot of people with mental illnesses, and there's a lot of people with drug and alcohol problems, right? But you have a mix of people. And what is remarkable is how diverse that mix is. I mean, you have people that still have, keep their campsite all neat and clean and tidy, and they camp around the train station so they can use the facilities there. And then you have other people that don't do that. But it really opened my eyes to the humanity and that problem, and the fact that the shelters really, I think, don't do the job that they're set out to do because people are kicked out at the end of or in the morning, right? And a lot of these homeless kind of, as you've seen with the shopping carts and whatnot, have a lot of stuff, and it's kind of there. Some of them have a hoarding problem because they've been poor, so they a lot of people with hoarding were poor at one time and don't know, and kind of gather up stuff. This is very common. So when they go into the shelter, there's a lot of thievery, and they lose the stuff that they depend on to live. So as a result, they tend to prefer to be outside. And so we as a culture have this idea that we need to find them a house first, right? Well, first we need to make them comfortable and treat them with dignity. And I think that's one of the things that I got out of this sleeping bag program, which our club was so wonderful to help with, is dignity goes a long way, and treating people with respect and with dignity and like human beings, and asking, how you can be helpful
to them, right?
Is gonna be much more successful than imposing our often wrong views upon them without listening. So listening is essential. So that's why I found that program to be so rewarding. Was it because it destroyed about half of my misconceptions?
All righty. Well, Scott, thank you for sharing today, and thank you for being on the program and helping us to grow and listening to the many things that your club is doing. And I hope you'll join us again sometime.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Great.
Enjoyed that. Thanks.
For the Rotary Times program, I am your host, Rotarian Dr. Deborah Jackson from the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia. You're welcome to join us at a Rotary Club in your area for either breakfast, lunch, dinner, or service project. You can find a club near you by looking us up on the internet. Many clubs are hosting meetings in person, virtually, or in some hybrid format. You only need to look us up for the details. Remember, our time is your time, and it's always time well spent. Please join us for our next program as we continue to celebrate Rotary's 117 years of service above self. Funding for this program is made possible by the generosity of Rotarian Lynn Heinrichs, State Farm Agency, McLean, Virginia.